Hi and welcome everybody. My name's Chris and I am the astrologer at solarworkastrology.co.uk. So I am joining you today from Wales in the UK as we enter the first day of the Taurus solar month. As we move into a very exciting and busy month astrologically or astronomically, and I'm going to be sharing with you what I think that has in store for us, or what the general cycles and archetypes are doing over the next month. So today is the 20th of April, and we kick off the solar month with a solar eclipse, which has already been described as one of the most significant astronomical events that has happened in many years. And it's a full solar eclipse in certain parts of the world. People from all over the world have been flying to try and get, a real visual of the event. So a solar eclipse is when the moon comes in and covers the entire disk of the sun, technically fully eclipsing the sun. And how does it manage to do that? Well, the moon is actually 1/400th the size of the sun. And at the time of a full eclipse, the moon crosses the line of the sun in relation to the earth, and is 1/400th the distance between the earth and the sun, therefore slotting perfectly into place. So why do I tell you this? An article that I wrote 10 years ago and never published, which was called The Enigma of the Skies, which is about the moon, and I will publish it, hopefully very soon, really talks about how the moon is a natural object artificially modified for a certain purpose to fit in with our evolution. And what is that purpose? Well, part of its purpose is to regulate and integrate all the different astrological energies within our planetary influence, hence why the moon moves through the full zodiac every 27 3/4 days or 28 days. And also to really bring out the feminine energy. So the sun, get my M's and my S's mixed up here. The sun is the masculine principle, it's the masculine light, the impetus, certainly as energies and astrology is concerned. And the moon is really there to balance that masculine out with the feminine principle. So the moon connects us to our emotional self, to our intuition, to the astral self, to the artistic self, and the various energies and aspects of our being all associated with that, which is quite a big conversation to go into, but that's the basics of it. So it really is, from my point of view, going to amplify and bring out the feminine aspect of us, the feminine principle. This is going to be an even bigger push towards the rising feminine consciousness that is on the planet right now, but also being able to really use this energy to get in touch with what we need to heal at the level of the feminine, at the level of the emotions, and to bring out our intuition, and to deal with the wounds of the sacral center, because the feminine rules the womb, or the womb chakra I'm talking about now, as well as the physical womb, of course, because that's a part of the female anatomy. And also the very energy center, that is the sacral center, which holds our entire being. That's a feminine center. It's a creative feminine center. And the moon in esoteric astrology is very connected to what we call the fourth ray, which is the ray of art and harmony through crisis and conflict. So some people might really be experiencing a lot of inner turmoil, a lot of darkness, a lot of shadow energy coming out, a lot of pain and suffering in our lives or in relation to the female. We may see certain feminine movements taking precedence and speaking out over the next month, right? Because Taurus, which is this sign behind me, that's its glyph, rules the throat center, right? And it is the throat center as the physical body's, obviously, communication tool, primary communication tool, right? So, we're going to have a lot of people having a lot to say about feminine issues, I would say, or the beginnings of people having a lot to say about the feminine and where that fits into overall human living and existence. So, we could do an entire show just really on the solar eclipse. What else is there really to say about that? I think when we experience anxiety or trauma or pain or turmoil, we've got to, get that we're not stuck. We don't have to be stuck in that state or that place. What is this here to teach us? What is this telling me about what is not right or not working? And what can I do about that? And, real self-empowerment as well. There's a lot of changes going on in the planet. The feminine consciousness is partly responsible for the emergence of the LGBTQI community, where you have men deeply grounded and connected to a feminine energy, which really helps balance planetary consciousness. There's shadow sides to that as well. There's the use and abuse of, and the whole, agenda that seems to be overly pushing the transgender community and things like that. But all of these things are very profoundly connected to the emergence of the feminine aspect within our society. And I really request that you would consider it, at least consider it as that if you're not doing that already, or tell people about that, because it's so important to do that. And it's very dear to my heart as well that people understand that. So that lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, kicking off the same day we move into Taurus, right? And Taurus is very connected to the solar principle as well, because Taurus is a sign that astrologically rules photosynthesis, the process via which the plant life gain their energy and their power to grow through the light of the sun in their biological process, right? Photosynthesis is a Taurian process. Agriculture is Taurus. It was in the age of Taurus of, ancient times of 4000 to 2000 BC, that at least modern history, right, the universities and modern society acknowledge that that is pretty much the era when agriculture started appearing all over the planet, the modern use of agriculture. And it's no coincidence that that happened in the sign of Taurus. It's not that necessarily people traveled all over the world and taught each other agriculture. They might have done that, but there was certainly an impression from that zodiacal age that would have had agriculture come about. So if we relate this photosynthesis and this planting of seeds and new crops to our own lives, right? What seeds can we now cast into the earth that we're ready to plant, that we may have been avoiding for a very long time? What is ready to be put into the earth? What new spiritual projects are ready to start growing? I know I've got a few in my own life that I'm thinking about, right? So what have you got that you want to take on? And on the 5th of May, we have the Wesak full moon. What is that? So Wesak is deeply associated with the Buddhist calendar. In fable and myth, it's regarded as the full moon in Taurus as the birthday and the death day, symbolizing the life of the avatar or their great teacher and mentor, Gautama the Buddha. And esoterically, we are taught through Charles Ledbetter's work in Theosophy, as well as the Master Dwal Kul through his teacher Alice Bailey in the Alice Bailey literature, that yearly, at the time of the May full moon, we have the Buddha overshadowing and bringing power and light and upliftment into human consciousness. So the Buddha, in his highest sense, absolutely is an avatar, and he is known to be the older brother of Christ, the Lord Maitreya, and he is the previous teacher or bodhisattva of humanity before the Christ took over 2000 years ago. And because the astrology is very fixed within human existence, it is a process of science and actuality, not just an idea. That the spiritual hierarchy, who is predominantly made up of many of the masters and great teachers that we know throughout human existence, great influences and bearers of the brilliance and the guiding direction of humanity, they gather and act as a conduit for this immense power to come down into the earth and be distributed into fabulous new projects and initiatives, and grounding that energy deep within human living and the earth itself. Because Taurus is an earth sign, remember, and it is perhaps the most earthy sign of the zodiac, and one of the most practical signs. All the earth signs can be very practical. They ground things, they have to be. So it really is that time to bring in that light and act spiritually in a similar way to what photosynthesis does, where we can take in the energy to grow. Okay, so please do not underrate the power of this period that we're in. And it's suggested to us that we be as selfless as we possibly can be around this full moon, because we are best to absorb that energy when we're selfless, and we can be stimulated with going beyond our own petty struggles in life and indifferences and tap into our soul's purpose, which ultimately is going to uplift ourselves and the planet. So just sit with that a second. What would it look like to be selfless around the period of the 5th of May? Maybe you might want to take out a pen and make some notes. What could you do? What could you do in the morning? What could you do in the evening? Could you have a call with a friend to create a buddy call each day, a practice that you take on to get yourself out of the way? Could you look in the mirror and say a mantra? Could you journal? Could you meditate with your soul? What am I here for? How can I serve? Let's get creative about this and let's get in action, okay? Because it's for our benefit and humanity's benefit. But when we're being in service and focusing on others, we also get served in the process, okay? So selflessness doesn't mean without. It means going beyond what we might normally understand and getting a different kind of reward without focusing on it, right? So that's as I get it. And maybe you can, offer me something that expands on that as well. Email me or Facebook me or something, right? With what you're creating and what you might want to add to that. So that Wesak full moon takes place on the 5th of May. And it is also the 24-hour period of King Charles's coronation. Okay, now, firstly, I'm not a royalist. I'm not anti-royal, and I'm not particularly royal. I don't have the China cups, and I don't wave flags. Sometimes I think it's a bit OTT. I think there's a lot of different stuff they could be doing. And I really respect the British public and different people around the world really do value the monarch. And I also like to see where it fits in and understand where it fits into things. But that being said, King Charles is a spiritual man, at least to some degree. Okay? He has, for over 20 years, been an advocate for naturopathy. He has given personal money to Hippocrates, which did at least exist in Bristol a few decades ago in England, where he would even talk publicly about the use of naturopathic techniques, including coffee enemas and herbal medicines, as alternative treatments to be researched and used for cancer healing. He was, I think, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, told off, slapped on the wrist for speaking with, I believe, a Welsh politician about introducing herbal medicine and naturopathy into the National Health Service. He's told not to do it. I mean, what a great thing to be doing. This is where he could influence things. And also, he is a voluntary patron of an astrological school which is the university, the Trinity University of St. David's in Lampeter, where he is associated with that college and been known to voluntarily, give out the awards and be a patron for that school of astrology. So I believe. So, he also has a herbal homeopathic garden, which he said is for damaged souls, right? So this man, at least to some degree, is awake and aware. He's probably quite restricted by the rules, regulations, do's and don'ts of the monarchy. And I think we've all got to see a lot about that in the last year or two, as, things have been exposed and maybe highlighted in various ways through the Harry and Meghan things that have been going on. But it certainly opened my eyes to how restrictive things can be for them. And, so I personally will not be sending negative energy to Charles, like he's a reptilian or he's part of some Illuminati cult or whatever flies around. If this person wants to put out herbal medicine, he's interested in astrology, he's funded Hippocrates, right? He has a herbal homeopathic garden. I've heard him talking about spiritual and metaphysical principles before. He is restrained in his work as a spiritual man, okay? And would it not be a really good thing when we think of him to pray and to hope and send him good energy, or talk about him in a way that can contribute to him being freed up to do that work publicly? Because could you imagine the King of England, the King of the Commonwealth, being freed up more to talk about these ideas? That could make a profoundly enormous influence. And if he is now stepping into the monarch and he's able to use those passions and that light of being coronated at the most powerful day spiritually of the year, we want to be thinking good things and hoping that he's freed up to do his work. Okay? So just some food for thought. So we then have, that's only like half of it, right? Going back to the 21st of April, which is the second day of this new Taurus calendar, we have Mercury going retrograde. Oh my God, Mercury's going retrograde. Well, sometimes that does drive a lot of things up to the surface, a lot of frustrating issues that we need to look at. It does do that. Communications, personal communications. Taurus is a sign that rules the throat again. So we really want to be looking at what we're withholding. Are we communicating in a way that doesn't work for other people? Are we not saying what there is to say to other people? How can we break through that? Are we not putting our messages out into the world? Are we not speaking our truth? Taurus is very connected to speaking one's truth. Okay? So are you speaking your truth? Are you putting your message out into the world? Are you withholding any communication? Are you being nasty or inappropriate in your communications? You need to refine certain parts of your communications. It's a great time to do it. Great time to be putting those energies out there and tapping into the power of the throat and our voice. Could be singing as well. I was singing this morning, and I was singing Dolly Parton with a friend. She randomly said, "When I die, will you sing Jolene at my funeral," to the congregation marching to the funeral? And I said, yeah, but it's not going to happen for at least 50 years, right? So, that was quite funny, but we've got this thing with singing Jolene and Dolly Parton, right? Deborah Curtis, that is, by the way. She's a yoga teacher from Swindon. And, so there's a lot to say about Mercury retrograde, right? It does tend to screw with technology. In the last few years, as an astrologer, I've not just believed that it does that, I've wanted to see the evidence for myself. And I've had situations where I've taken out new phone contracts in Mercury retrograde, and the porting hasn't worked correctly, and I've been phoning on my old number, and it's been texting on my new number, and doing all kinds of strange things. Right, these are all to do with Mercury retrograde. I've even observed Facebook going down in Mercury retrograde in late 2020, in a Libra Mercury retrograde, and also internet problems and things in homes and stuff like that. There was even once where I went on holiday, right, with a friend, and the landlady was telling me that the cottage that we were staying in had problems like a few months earlier with their internet, where they were getting 60 like megabyte download speed, but the upload was like half a megabyte. And I went, that would have been Mercury retrograde. I said, was that the end of May, early June? And she says, how do you know that? And I says, well, Mercury was retrograde, and Mercury rules technology communications, and it was in the sign of Gemini, which is technology and communications. She didn't say a single word after that. I'm not sure if she was shocked or just like totally like, I don't have an answer for what he's just said, and my friend was laughing. But it's great to get that we can observe these things if you don't necessarily believe them, and check out the evidence for ourselves. I think it's very important over the new Mercury cycle that we're coming into to plant new foundations and roots for our lives. Taurus, the sign of roots. I'm moving house in the next couple of days, right? I've been traveling for the last year and house sitting professionally, and I'm now locking my roots. Oh my God, I just got that. My roots down on a Taurus cycle. There you go. I've been talking about roots during this show. So I'm really excited and optimistic and expectant about this new period, this new phase of my life. Okay. And we've got all good things available to us because Jupiter, the sign of abundance and prosperity, right? And the potentiality to energize and take things forward is moving also into the sign of Taurus mid-month. I think it's the 16th of May. So Jupiter, it flies around the solar system. It's massive. It's the biggest planet. It shapes the orbits of other planets. It takes things with it. If an asteroid comes into our solar system and accidentally gets caught near Jupiter, it's going to get reorbited. It's got immense power. And I say that because if something can come near you during this Jupiter period with a new project, they might get taken into your orbit. Okay, which could be quite exciting, right? So, we really look at, through this Wesak period, what your soul's purpose is. If you want help with the soul's purpose, that's one of my specialities as an esoteric astrologer, is direction and support with that. Okay, I really look at what the soul's purpose is, take time to meditate, to connect, and to think selflessly about what you can contribute as a unique expression of who you are, okay, to this world. And Taurus is a sign that rules money. So Jupiter in Taurus for over a year, I can't remember how many months exactly, is it 11 or 15? It goes in and out in retrogrades, doesn't it? So it's something like 12 months, right? Of the sign of money being supported by the planet of prosperity and abundance. Exciting. There's never been a time to build a new project, to get the money for it, that's revolutionary. Now is the time, because Uranus, the planet of revolution that helps to bring in and upgrade things and revolutionize things for this new age of Aquarius that we're moving into, is in Taurus, the sign of money, and will be for the next 2 to 3 years. Okay, being joined by Jupiter means we have access to money supporting new foundational projects that make a difference. So just sit with that. And astrology is about using the knowledge and the wisdom to make us aware so we can act more consistently with what we're here to do. So that's very exciting. So we've gone through Jupiter, we've gone through Mercury, we've been through the solar eclipse, we've touched upon the full moon, and yeah, so we've got a very, very strong month ahead, okay? So have a great end of April and May, whenever you're watching this. I'd be very grateful if you would subscribe to this channel and forward it to, you know, by whatever means you feel is appropriate. If you've got any questions, you can get in touch. Inquiries at soulworkastrology.co.uk. If you'd like to inquire also about an astrology reading, you can visit my website, soulworkastrology.co.uk, and have a great month.